My daughter-in-law thought I was asleep when she whispered, "Once she signs the papers, this house is finally ours." I kept my eyes closed and slowed my breathing. My son didn't answer right away. Then I heard the sound of ice clinking softly in his glass. "We just need a few more weeks," he muttered. I said nothing. I didn't cry. I simply waited until their footsteps disappeared upstairs. What I did next changed everything. "I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached." The house felt colder after Harold died. For 38 years, this old colonial home in Vermont had been loud with life. Sunday dinners, Christmas mornings, my husband humming Sinatra songs while fixing things in the garage. Now the silence stretched through every hallway like winter fog. 3 months after the funeral, my son Daniel insisted I shouldn't live alone. "You need family around you, Mom," he'd said gently. At the time, I believed him. So Daniel and his wife, Vanessa, moved into the house with their 2 children. I gave them the upstairs bedrooms. I cooked dinners. I folded laundry when Vanessa claimed she was too exhausted from work. Little by little, the house stopped feeling like mine. Cabinets changed. Locks appeared on office drawers. Conversations ended whenever I entered the room. Then last Tuesday, I noticed something strange. The small security camera above the garage was glowing red. Harold installed the system years ago. After his death, I assumed it no longer worked. That night, while everyone slept, I opened my husband's old laptop. And the hidden camera recorded everything. I barely slept that night. The old laptop sat open on Harold's desk, its pale screen glowing against the dark wood walls of his study. Outside, snow drifted quietly across the backyard. Upstairs, I could hear the faint sound of Vanessa's television through the floorboards. I clicked through hours of security footage with trembling hands. At first, there was nothing unusual. Delivery drivers, Daniel taking out the trash, the children racing through the garage after school. Then, around 11:40 p.m. the previous Friday, the camera captured Vanessa standing near Harold's old tool bench with her phone pressed against her ear. "She still thinks Daniel owns half the house," she whispered with a small laugh. "Once she signs the transfer papers, we can sell this place and move to Boston." My stomach tightened. Transfer papers? I replayed the clip 3 times, hoping I had misunderstood her. Then Daniel walked into frame. "She's been forgetful lately," Vanessa continued softly. "If we tell her the paperwork is related to taxes, she'll sign it." Daniel rubbed his face tiredly but never corrected her. Never defended me. I leaned back slowly in Harold's leather chair, staring at the frozen image on the screen. My son looked older than 43 that night. Tired, weak, like someone allowing terrible things to happen simply because it was easier than stopping them. The next morning, Vanessa placed a cup of coffee beside me with a warm smile. "Morning, Claire," she said sweetly. "Daniel and I need your signature on a few estate documents later." I smiled back and took a slow sip. For the first time in months, I finally understood why Harold never trusted her. That afternoon, Vanessa spread several documents across the dining room table Harold and I bought during our 2nd year of marriage. The same table where we celebrated birthdays, graduations, and every Christmas Eve for nearly 4 decades. Now it looked like a business office. "These are just routine estate updates," Vanessa said lightly, sliding the papers toward me. "Since Harold passed, the county requires some ownership clarification." I adjusted my reading glasses slowly. Most of the pages were filled with complicated legal language. Paragraphs about property transfers, beneficiaries, power of attorney. Vanessa pointed to the bottom line with a polished pink fingernail. "You can sign right here, Claire." I noticed Daniel standing near the kitchen doorway, unusually quiet. He kept checking his phone instead of looking at me. Something about that hurt more than Vanessa's lies. My son used to protect me. When he was 10 years old, he once punched a boy for calling me poor after Daniel's father lost his first construction business. He came home crying harder than I did. Now he couldn't even meet my eyes. "I'd like my lawyer to review these first," I said calmly. Vanessa's smile froze for half a second. "Oh," she laughed softly, "you really don't need to spend money on attorneys. It's all standard paperwork." "I'm sure it is," I replied. The room became very quiet. Then little Emma ran downstairs holding a coloring book. "Mommy, She asked innocently. Are we still moving to Boston after Grandma signs the papers? Vanessa's face went pale instantly. Daniel looked up so fast he nearly dropped his phone. And for the first time, nobody at that table knew what to say. Vanessa recovered first. Children have wild imaginations, she said quickly, forcing out a laugh. Emma overhears things and mixes them up all the time. But Emma frowned. No, I don't, she said seriously. You said Grandma's house will make us rich. Daniel snapped his head toward his daughter. Emma, he warned quietly. The little girl looked confused and lowered her coloring book onto the table. I folded my hands carefully in my lap. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. But I kept my face calm. Harold used to tell me something during difficult moments. The quieter you become, the more people reveal themselves. Vanessa gathered the papers too quickly, stacking them into a neat pile with shaky hands. We can talk about this another day, she said lightly. Everyone's tired. But I noticed something then. One document remained partially exposed near the bottom of the stack. At the top, in bold letters, were the words, "Transfer of residential property ownership." My stomach tightened again. That night, after everyone went upstairs, I returned to Harold's study with a cup of tea growing cold between my hands. I opened the security recordings once more. Around midnight, the camera captured Daniel standing alone in the garage. He looked exhausted, older somehow. Then Vanessa entered. She's starting to suspect something, Daniel muttered. Vanessa crossed her arms impatiently. She's 70 years old, Daniel. If we don't do this now, we'll be stuck in this town forever. And if she finds out? Vanessa's voice turned cold enough to freeze the room. Then we remind her this family is all she has left. I stared at the screen long after the video ended. For the first time since Harold died, I felt truly afraid of the people sleeping upstairs. The next morning, I drove into town alone. I told Vanessa I had a doctor's appointment. She offered to come with me immediately, which only confirmed my suspicions. No need, I said gently. It's only a routine checkup. Her smile looked strained as I picked up my purse. Instead of the clinic, I drove straight to Miller and Hayes Attorneys, the same law office Harold had used for nearly 20 years. The receptionist recognized me instantly. Mrs. Bennett, she said warmly, we were all so sorry about Harold. I managed a small smile. Thank you, I need to speak with Mr. Hayes privately. An hour later, I sat across from Richard Hayes in a quiet office that smelled faintly of coffee and old paper files. When I explained the property documents, his expression darkened. Claire, he said carefully, your husband placed this house in an irrevocable trust 6 years ago. I blinked in confusion. What does that mean? It means nobody can transfer ownership without your direct approval and legal review. Not your son, not your daughter-in-law. A slow chill moved through my chest. Richard opened a folder and slid several papers toward me. Harold's signature covered the final page. He was worried, Richard admitted quietly. Not about Daniel, about Vanessa. I stared down at my husband's familiar handwriting. Years ago, Harold had seen something I refused to see. There's something else, Richard continued carefully. About 3 months before Harold passed, Vanessa contacted this office asking questions about your estate. My throat tightened. What kind of questions? She wanted to know how quickly property ownership could change after a death. Outside the office window, snow drifted softly across Main Street. For the first time, I realized this plan may have started long before Harold was gone. I drove home slowly that afternoon, gripping the steering wheel tighter than usual. The closer I got to the house, the heavier my chest felt. For months, I had blamed grief for the strange atmosphere inside that home. The cold silences, the whispered conversations, the way Vanessa watched me whenever I handled mail or answered the phone. Now I understood. It wasn't concern. It was calculation. When I pulled into the driveway, Vanessa was standing near the front porch holding a grocery bag against her hip. Snowflakes settled lightly in her dark hair. There you are, she said with forced brightness. Your appointment took longer than expected. Traffic was bad, I replied calmly. She studied my face carefully, almost like she was searching for signs of something. Fear, suspicion, knowledge. I gave her nothing. That evening, I stayed quiet during dinner while the children talked about school and Daniel scrolled endlessly through emails on his phone. Vanessa barely touched her food. Around 9 o'clock, after everyone went upstairs, I opened the security footage again. This time, I searched older recordings. Weeks of them. Then I found it. 2 months earlier, Vanessa stood in the garage with a man I didn't recognize. Tall, grey coat, leather briefcase. "I just need her signature," Vanessa whispered. "Daniel won't fight me once the house sells." The man nodded calmly. "And the trust?" Vanessa's expression hardened. "She doesn't know about it." I stopped the video immediately. My hands had gone ice cold. Because neither did Vanessa. Harold had changed far more than the house paperwork before he died. And suddenly, I understood why he insisted on handling our finances alone during those final years. The next few days passed quietly. Too quietly. Vanessa became unusually attentive after that. She brought me tea without asking, folded blankets over my knees while I watched television, asked if I needed help organizing Harold's old belongings. It felt less like kindness and more like someone checking whether a door was still locked. Daniel avoided me almost entirely. Every conversation between us became short and awkward. "You doing okay, Mom?" "Fine." "You need anything?" "No." Then silence. Late Thursday night, I sat alone in Harold's study again, the security footage glowing softly across the dark room. Outside, wind rattled the bare tree branches against the windows. I clicked through another recording from 3 weeks earlier. Vanessa stood in the garage speaking sharply into her phone. "No, she still thinks Daniel inherited everything," she whispered. "The old woman has no idea how much money is actually tied to the trust." I froze. Money? Richard Hayes had only mentioned the house. My pulse quickened as I kept listening. "She signs the medical authorization first," Vanessa continued. "Then the property transfer becomes easy." Medical authorization. A cold wave moved through my chest. She wasn't just trying to take my home. She was preparing to control my decisions completely. The video ended with Daniel walking into frame. For a moment, I hoped he would stop her, tell her this had gone too far. Instead, he quietly asked, "Are you sure this won't hurt, Mom?" Vanessa stepped closer and touched his arm gently. "She'll be happier in assisted living. Daniel, we're doing what's best for everyone." Everyone. I stared at my son's face on the screen. Then I watched him nod. The following morning, I stopped pretending I didn't know. Not outwardly. I still smiled at breakfast. Still asked the children about school. Still thanked Vanessa when she poured my coffee. But inside, something had changed. Fear was gone. In its place was clarity. After Daniel left for work, I called Richard Hayes from the laundry room where Vanessa couldn't overhear me. "I want to activate every protection Harold put in place," I said quietly. There was a short pause. "I was hoping you'd say that," Richard replied. By noon, new documents had already been filed. My banking passwords were changed. Access permissions updated. The trust locked under additional legal review. Richard also advised me to freeze any future property transfer requests without my direct in-person approval. I agreed to everything. That afternoon, I visited First County Bank alone. The young teller smiled politely until the branch manager saw my name and immediately invited me into his office. "Mrs. Bennett," he said carefully, "your husband left detailed instructions regarding your accounts." Another wave of cold realization moved through me. Harold truly had known. The manager handed me copies of documents I had never seen before. Emergency protections, secondary accounts, legal restrictions tied to the trust. At the bottom of one page, Harold had written something in blue ink. "If Claire ever seems pressured, delay everything and contact Richard Hayes immediately." My vision blurred for a moment. Even after death, my husband was still protecting me. When I returned home that evening, Vanessa was standing in the kitchen with Daniel, her voice tight with frustration. "I don't understand why the bank suddenly restricted access," she whispered. I quietly hung my coat by the door. Then I smiled. And neither of them noticed I had heard every word. Over the next week, the atmosphere inside the house changed completely. Vanessa stopped pretending to be warm. The little smiles disappeared first, then the cheerful questions. Even the way she set my dinner plate onto the table became colder. Sharper somehow. Daniel looked worse every day. He barely slept, I could hear him pacing upstairs late at night while the old pipes groaned softly through the walls. One evening, I walked into the kitchen for tea and stopped when I heard raised voices. The bank froze everything, Vanessa hissed. Do you understand what that means? Daniel rubbed both hands across his face. Keep your voice down. No, she snapped. You told me the house would already be under our name by now. I stepped quietly back into the hallway before they noticed me. Later that night, I opened the garage camera again. Vanessa stormed into frame first, her heels striking the concrete floor hard enough to echo. She knows, she whispered angrily. I swear she knows. Daniel looked pale. She's still acting normal. That's what scares me. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Vanessa lowered her voice. If Claire changes the trust, we lose everything. Everything. Not family, not memories, not Harold. Everything meant money. I sat there in silence, staring at the screen while snow fell softly outside the garage windows. After a moment, Daniel spoke again, quietly this time. Maybe we should stop pushing her. Vanessa turned toward him slowly. And live here forever, watching your mother control everything? Daniel said nothing. That silence told me more than any confession ever could. 2 nights later, I invited everyone to dinner. Vanessa seemed surprised when I used the good china. The white plates with silver edges Harold bought for our 25th anniversary. The linen napkins I hadn't touched since his funeral. You're in a good mood tonight, Vanessa said carefully as she poured wine. I've been thinking a lot lately, I replied. Daniel barely touched his food. The children talked happily about school while tension stretched silently across the table between the adults. After dessert, I folded my napkin neatly onto my plate and stood. There's something I'd like to show you both, I said calmly. Vanessa's smile flickered. I walked into Harold's study and returned carrying the old laptop. Daniel immediately looked nervous. What's this? He asked. I placed the computer on the table and turned the screen toward them. Then I pressed play. The garage footage filled the silence instantly. Vanessa's voice, Daniel's silence, the conversations about transfer papers, assisted living, selling the house. Every word. Emma looked confused as the room went completely still. Vanessa's face drained of color. Claire, she whispered sharply, you were spying on us. I looked at her quietly. No, I said. The hidden camera recorded everything all by itself. Daniel stared down at the table like a man watching his own life collapse. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Vanessa straightened her shoulders. You don't understand, she said quickly. We were trying to help you. I almost smiled at that. Help. Such a gentle word for something so cruel. Finally, Daniel spoke without lifting his eyes. How long have you known? I closed the laptop softly. Long enough to learn exactly who was living inside my house. Nobody said much after that. Vanessa locked herself upstairs almost immediately. I could hear drawers opening and closing through the ceiling while suitcases rolled across the bedroom floor. Daniel remained alone at the dining table long after the children had gone to bed. The untouched wine glass still sat beside him. For a while, neither of us spoke. Finally, he looked up at me with tired red eyes. Mom, he whispered, I never wanted things to go this far. I studied my son carefully. The little boy who once waited for me after school with scraped knees and crooked smiles was still somewhere inside that man. Buried beneath weakness, beneath silence. But you let it happen, I said softly. Daniel lowered his head. The old grandfather clock in the hallway ticked steadily between us. I was trying to keep my family together, he muttered. I almost answered immediately, but then I realized something painful. So was I. The next morning, Richard Hayes arrived with several documents and a moving company recommendation. By afternoon, Vanessa was gone. No dramatic screaming, no shattered dishes, no final apology. She simply walked out carrying expensive luggage and bitterness across her face. Daniel stayed behind for 2 more days. Mostly quiet, mostly ashamed. On the 3rd morning, I found him standing in Harold's study staring at the old security monitor. I should have protected you, he said without turning around. Outside, snow was beginning to melt from the front lawn. Thin streams of water slid quietly along the driveway. Yes, I replied gently, you should have. He nodded once. Then he picked up his coat and left the house in silence. Spring arrived slowly after that. The snow disappeared from the front yard first. Then the frozen lake behind the house began to thaw. Small pieces of ice drifting quietly across the dark water Harold loved so much. For the first time in months, the house felt peaceful again. Not happy, but honest. I stopped checking the security footage after Daniel left. There was nothing left to uncover anymore. The truth had already said everything that needed to be said. A few weeks later, I turned Harold's study into a reading room. I packed away the old camera monitor carefully but kept the small red light from the garage system in my desk drawer. Sometimes I still looked at it while drinking tea in the evenings. Such a tiny thing. A hidden camera, a silent witness. And yet it revealed the collapse of an entire family. Daniel called several times during the spring. Sometimes I answered, sometimes I let the phone ring. When we finally spoke face to face again, he looked thinner, quieter. "I'm sorry, Mom," he said softly, "for all of it. I believed he meant it. But some apologies arrive after the damage has already settled into the walls." "I love you," I told him calmly, "but trust is a fragile thing once broken." He cried then. Not loudly, just the quiet kind of crying grown men do when they finally see themselves clearly. After he left, I stood alone on the back porch wrapped in Harold's old wool sweater, watching the sunset melt across the lake. The air smelled like pine trees and rain. Peaceful. At my age, I've learned something important. Silence does not mean weakness, kindness does not mean blindness. And sometimes, the people who say the least are the ones quietly seeing everything.